Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird.
Guys, where are we?
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Welcome to the Outer Rim. Enjoy your stay. All right. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun, and we have made it to the end of the first season of Severance. I want to thank everybody who's been checking out the channel, been checking out the videos. This has been a really fun time to be talking about and making content for this show. I really wish I had done it a long time ago, but I think it's kind of cool that we're doing it. 10 days. It's the 7th of January 2025 right now. 10 days until the premiere of the second season. And boy, oh boy, we are going to be jumping in when we come back. Boy, oh boy. Like, think about this. Literally, because this is full spoilers. Okay, let's get to the like and subscribe, all that, all that jazz. Hit the bell for all notifications if because here on this channel, right, I've talked about this. If you watch any other videos, you're like, this is my, like, I don't try to review things like regular people. I think most reviewers are just boring and all say the same thing. Here at Smirking Gun, we like to talk about stuff. We like to have a conversation about the things that we're watching, that we're talking about. And we talk about all kinds of things: comics, games, TV, movies, right? And life in the world. So here at this channel, we do things just a little bit differently. We still talk about the thing. We talk about all kinds of stuff. Think about it like you're just sitting there chilling with a friend, talking about TV shows. And that's what we kind of do here. So, and I want to also dedicate, it's so stupid, but I'm doing it anyway. It's like, as I've been talking about this show and how much about the workplace, are all of our workplaces, especially us, like, I don't want to leave anybody out that's a worker, but like, for the people in the offices, for the essential workers out there, for all of us that are, grinding and the system that's trying to grind us down. This show is, the show and how I'm talking about this is dedicated to all of us out there that can understand what's going on in this show. For all of us out there that see what, the elements of why this show was created, how this show has come up, with it at all, and brilliantly put to screen by the actors and the directors and everybody who makes this show. It is such a fun show and so many rich topics to talk about. But we've made it here to the finale. And I mean, there's so much tension has been building. The show is like tension, the show. With, whenever we get a little bit of levity, but this is like tension, the episode. Like, everything is about that build up to, like, when we know it's going to happen, right? Dylan has switched everyone on, and now it's only a matter of time before somebody stops him. How long can we stretch this out? Well, this is the shortest episode, I think, of the season. It's only 40 minutes long, not counting credits and recap. So a lot has to happen in a little amount of time. So if you're one of those people like me, like I've said before, I sit there and I'll watch the clock on a finale and go, how the hell are they gonna, like, resolve things? Or, at least release that tension and then immediately put us in situations that create more tension, with more questions, with where are we going, and oh my god, when are we coming back? And for this show, it's been a journey coming back. Our innies have been in limbo forever. And what I was going to say at the beginning of this was that, imagine what, like, because what happens, right? Eventually Dylan has to turn off the link that everybody has. So the next time, they immediately turn off, but instantly they're going to feel the repercussions of their actions. That's wild when you think about how they live, and everything is always just boom, next, boom, next, boom, next. So just when we come back, it's going to be wild. I'm also going to do things just a little bit different today, because we usually just kind of go and recap and recollect and talk about everything as it happens. But today I'm going to focus on each one individually, because since watching this show is all been like, you sit there and for anybody who watches this episode for the first time, have fun. Hope you had fun with that, because even watching it now for like the third time, I'm sitting here knowing what's going to happen, and I'm just the, like rigid with tenseness of like, oh my god. And we will point out certain aspects where I'm just like, because this is like, let's talk about the cliche of this, right? Where you're on a ticking clock, and the ticking clock in this is how long can Dylan hold the connection, the two connections, to keep them turned on before anything happens. And it's in editing, it's in the script of like all the ways that obstacles get in the way of. This isn't just about like, oh god, like the ticking clock. It's about like what they have to accomplish within that ticking clock, and how they use tension to stretch things out to the limit before we finally are allowed to breathe again, by allowing our characters to either succeed or fail at the task of, within that ticking clock. And man, oh man, I mean, it's like they've put us in a crazy situation. It's just like they've stacked the deck here. Okay, Dylan's in the security room with the door, like bungee corded together so that Milchick can't get in. So it's about like whether or not, how fast can Milchick, well, first off, how fast can they get down there and realize that something's going on? Then how fast can they get through that door? And then how fast can you get somebody to turn off the connection? So you got all that tension in that situation. Then you got Mark's situation, where Miss Cobell, Harmony Cobell, we now know that's her full name, and it's not made, like maybe she's got another name too. I wouldn't be surprised, man, if she's like some secret Egan or something that was the bastard child of Kier or something like that. I don't know. But you've got everything going on with Mark, where at this reading party, where the guy who wrote the book that any Mark is obsessed with, you've got the baby situation. Because so anytime there's a baby around, right, there's always going to be the excuses you can use for, oh, I'm sorry, I've got to do this, oh, I'm sorry, I got to do that because of this. And it's at a party where people are demanding attention from everyone. So Mark is like a pinball here, navigating that whole thing, while his boss, who's always sniffing around Mark, is there. So you got that tension all built up. Then you've got Helly, who we find out is an Egan. I would say she must be like the great granddaughter or great granddaughter or great 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 granddaughter. I don't know how many Egans there have been since the original Kier, but that she's, the tension for her is she has to navigate all these rich people. But this is where we get to find out a lot of secrets too. And it's the build up to, when is she gonna get to the stage? When does the gala start? Will the gala start before the connection is severed? Which is another interesting way to put that. They're trying to not be severed in this episode. And then how long before the hammer comes down, where people know what's going on and then stop her? Will that happen? Now, Irving's the only one it doesn't have like mounting tension, unless you're following like Um, I thought that there'd be more to his, but it really is like what I said in the last episode, that he was just going to go running to Bert. And so his is just kind of about tracking Bert down. But what happens when he gets there? So we're going to break down, though, everybody's situation one by one in kind of order of importance. And I'm going to start with Dylan because, look, again, full spoilers. If you've watched, you have to have watched this episode, and why I'm starting with kind of the bookends of this, right? Dylan's the crux of this. If Dylan fails, before anything happens, then it was for naught. And so the way we keep editing back and forth to Dylan uh, is great because, again, at some point you have to cut off and then go, okay, how much time before, once it's turned off, will our characters have to say anything? Well, but it's already hard. All right. He's a big dude and they've got it stretched out just perfectly. Again, this is a classic situation too of that person who's got that one job, and if they fail at that job, the whole thing, falls apart. And since he was always kind of a guy who was in it for the perks and everything until he found out he had a kid, um, this is a great character change and a great character beat for somebody who this must be very difficult for him to do, is hold on to this stuff. And then you got Milchick who's coming there. But the best part about this is because it's Milchick, not in spite of it. In spite of it, right? Because Milchick's this intimidating guy, but ever since Milchick went into his house and all those things have been rattling around in Dylan's head about how he talked about his kid, how Milchick's like the guy who knows all about my life and is withholding it from me, right? It's easy for us to like root in this situation. It's like, fuck you, Mr. Milchick. That's what we've been wanting to say this entire series, right? Is be that put in that position to be like, fuck you, Mr. Milchick. Because who hasn't wanted to say that to a supervisor? Right. And I guarantee, man, maybe sometimes it's unjustifiable and we're just full of shit and we just didn't want to do something and blah blah blah. But other times, most of the time, when we want to say fuck you, Mr. Milchick, it's usually justified. They've usually but then Milchick, he tries so desperately. He does not realize that these people have changed. Dylan has changed. The reason he's acting this way isn't some silly lark. He's trying to throw at him all the perks, revealing stuff to us and as an audience, right? That there's so much more going on. And I've got things written down here. So it's going to be hard for me because I am jumping around. And I tried to separate everybody, and then it just became a jumbled mess. But really, let's see. Yeah, he talks about the tempers, so we get that information. He's like, the tempers were pretty disappointed, Dylan. I was like, if you want, you can still get them back. So basically, those people that were that was an orgy, apparently. I don't know. I still don't know how far that was gonna go, but I don't know. But he's saying he's offering up him like a free orgy. Then he's like talking about paintball. It's weird that he starts at the most desirable thing that would be for a human being, which is sex. But then he's like, orgy, paintball, coffee cozy. It should be going up in desirability, not down. But he's like talking about that coffee cozy. Like, I get you a fucking coffee cozy right now. Like the coffee cozy is the most desirable thing and not the orgy. Although, I mean, it was a weird orgy. It was weird. It was kind of like well, I mean, if you don't know what you're attracted to, I guess you throw a bunch of things in the mix and maybe some of them stick and maybe some of them just sit in the corner and watch. But eventually, though, he does get inside and break the connection. And I just do love that how Dylan stuck with it as long as he could. You know what I mean? At least the script had him right. It was perfectly done, and we don't know what's going to happen to Dylan because Dylan never got woken up. So his reality is he's going to be already, in whatever it is, right? We don't even know how much time it's going to be have gone by. So anyway, next we're going to talk about Irving. Irving, who wakes up to the ace of spades, paint in hand, the black ooze, seeing every single thing around him, at how many times his Audi has painted the same thing. Now, the only thing, we don't get any kind of information, though, of acknowledgement from Irving that he knows what this hallway is. He just sees all the paintings. And what I like about Irving's bit of the story, and what they all would be going through, but I think that in his part, they really get to kind of focus on the amazement of just being awake and out in the world and having to do certain things, getting to experience certain things. Mark is around people. So, yeah, the situation's unique. All these people are new, but they're still people, and just pretending that, he's an office manager, right, or an office supervisor or whatever in his own at Lumen. So talking to people isn't that hard. But his mission is like trying to figure out who to trust. But Irving is the one who like gets to see a dog for the first time. His dog. He starts looking around his house. There's the war medals. He gets to find his dad was a veteran, and as he's looking through his paperwork, right, all this stuff around the house, we get to see more about what Irving is up to. All these firsts, though. Can you imagine seeing a dog for the first time? I don't remember like when I first saw a pet or an animal for the first time. How like it would be like, oh wow, but it's like more like waking up a memory, because I feel like it's not complete amazement. It's kind of like, oh yes, a dog. You know what I mean? But oh great, and it's my dog. But for Irving's side of things, there is this uniqueness also because he finds papers, and I was trying to figure out where they were going with this. I actually rewound it a couple of times to kind of study the stuff that he's been following, like a worker at Lumen who sued the company for injuries that happened while he was severed. And he's got an employee list, and some with addresses, some with phone numbers, little notations everywhere. We find out in Irving's part that the town is called Keir and that it's in Pennsylvania. At least this is me just first finding out about this. I don't remember them saying that it's Keir, Pennsylvania. But we get like a map, and we also find out like all these Bert's address is in this list, and Bert's already marked on the map. Are these all people that have been injured or have had lawsuits against the company? Is that why Bert's retiring? I don't know. Like I love how we get this tension built up. We get all these questions built up. We get some answers, but always, whatever answer we get, there's more questions. And that's kind of what they did on Lost, except, you know, uh, admittedly, looking at Lost all these years later and knowing like a lot more about the behind the scenes drama of making that show, um, it feels like that show went off the rails. And when you have this, that's the only danger I think that I would see of this show having, is having those kind of questions that just keep coming and coming and coming, so that by the end of it, everybody's kind of disappointed because I think you build up like false, like if some things are just kind of like throwaway things that aren't meant to be answered. I think when you get a devoted audience, that becomes harder and harder to like disseminate which things people can really want resolved, or things that you can just kind of forget about. But anyway, that's really diving into deeper parts of like storytelling anyway. So we find out he's got all these people on the maps, but why? But for Irving, it's less about like what's the whole thing with the suing. It's just I gotta find somebody, and here's Bert, the one person in the universe that I know and want and love, and I can find him now. Now he has to drive a car for the first time, and again, I feel like it's more like memory waking up. Like it's something that he doesn't know he knows until he does it. Like it's kind of like an old muscle that but it's still dangerous. I would still say that it was kind of a dangerous situation where can you imagine if he just crashed and ended up in the hospital, didn't even get to talk to Bert? But we still don't know if he got to talk to Bert. To me, it looks like it's gonna be, well, first he has to get to Bert's, which he finally does. But of course, to heartbreak of everyone everywhere that was shipping this relationship and will still be shipping this relationship is it looks like Bert already has another person, has someone in his life. And Irving sees this and it's just kind of like betrayal a little bit. I think the betrayal that he feels from, Kier's teachings and Lumen and everything else there, that when he sees like Bert with someone else, it's kind of like another betrayal, even though it's, he doesn't know. But it's like, I guess in Irving's mind, it could be like, how can our love not like, you know, bleed out like my paintings are bleeding into my life and bleeding and clearly bleeding out, like, so he's just pounding on the door in the end, looking for, waiting for Bert to answer the door. And so when he wakes up, when he gets back to, when the switch is flipped, we don't really know if he got to talk to him or not. I'm starting to bet that it's just going to be Irving standing in front of Bert, and maybe there'll be something that develops there organically through the script of these two people meeting their Audis, and how whether or not that builds a relationship. Well, it probably will, and then I feel sorry for the guy that Bert's dating right now. But that's Irving's whole thing. Now it's really hard to decide which one to go with, Helly or Mark, but I have to go with Helly next, because I just think Mark's is just sweeter. Because I mean, this is pretty sweet. If you're gonna wake up as somebody and you're Helly R, the best person you could wake up as, right, is like someone high up in the company, the daughter of I still don't know all the relationships here, but James Egan, I think, is her dad. We meet him in this. So we meet another weirdo Egan, like in the flesh this time, not some, you know, mannequin, some wax sculpture, But I was thinking about this. All right, she's all stoked because I'm going to have a platform in front of all these rich people. This isn't like a televised event. This is a gala. This is a private thing. So the only people she's really going to reach are the people that are invited to this thing. And unless there's some enemies to Egan there, because this feels like a supporter thing. This feels like a pat on the back thing. This is their project, right? The Helly project, the Severed story. I'm gonna prove that this works and that what we're doing isn't completely. I don't even, like I said, ethics and morality are 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 funny depending on your own personal morals and ethics. There's certain things that I think we all supposedly agree on, and then there are some things that we kind of all go, ooh, that's icky. And I feel like that's what Severed is something that's like, oh no, no, that's no, that's where we don't want to go, right? Because again, it's like the corporatization of the Egan idea of employer employee that got like completely like changed and warped and twisted to where, I mean, where like what Irving and Bert were talking about with the painting of, they were colleagues, they were friends, this was a collaborative thing, to being changed to how does the worker control the workee, or how does management control, how does ownership control the worker, not work together but to own them. And Severance being this like new way of control, you just won't know it. You'll forget it. You won't be a. It's basically slavery. Like we walk right into slavery, even though it's like kind of a metaphor to our own work lives now. So if she's gonna, it's so easy to get like sidetracked, but that's what I love about this is just talking about it brings up all these things, at least for me. And so when she's gonna talk, who's she gonna be talking to? But the influential people there, the people that are they gonna care? I feel like the only thing, and I guess we might as well just get to it, right? I mean, like she's running into all these people. It's easier to navigate this, I feel, than like Mark's party situation. Because these people are kind of just nod your head, smile, agree with things. But we know that she knows Natalie. She meets the senator's wife. She meets the senator. We know now that she's had 3 pregnancies and probably all 3 of them are severed. They're very, very pro Severance. And this is where thank your father. So yeah, James Egan is her dad. So thank you, father, if you see him. All these things, I was like, oh, there's an Egan out there, and she's not the only one. And how she, freaks out eventually. She's in the bathroom and her father comes in. And to me, this was like listening to this guy talk. How he says what that innie tried to do to you. It's her. She tried to do it, but he's the kind of person who literally is separating it. He's calling her like they don't consider them people. Helena Egan is not a good person. That she would even think of how she could create another version of herself and that person being nothing. That's the philosophy. That's the real person. When you listen to some of the stuff that she's saying in the interviews and stuff about how the employees are family, right? The employees are family. And this is all supposed to bring us together, but we know by like her own videos that that's not how she feels. And that this is going to happen no matter what. This is going to succeed no matter what. And so in that respect, as much as Helly our hero, Helly, is jazzed up, it's like when she finally gets up to the podium, Miss Cobell is there, and we'll get to how she got there. But like she's just sitting there threatening and threatening and threatening her friends and everything. And that's like no big deal really to me, is like the torture will always go on for workers. But when she goes out there and she tells everyone, right, Severance is a lie, they're torturing us. First they laugh, because of course it's like, oh, this is like just some bit, right? And I would probably think so too. But like all she's doing is telling a bunch of backers and donors something that they're just going to be like, there was a glitch. And all you can do is maybe hope that there was somebody in that room that shouldn't have been. Somebody we don't know about. Somebody who gets curious about this. Somebody who doesn't like the idea of unsevered people suddenly walking around telling secrets. Maybe this will change somebody, the senator's wife's mind. Maybe that'll make her think. But to me, again, all these people that are there are probably rich and don't give a shit about us. When I say us, I mean this is just par for course. And that the only thing bad to them would be if this information got out. See, this is how it could actually work in Heliar's favor, is that if they were to be scared that there would be scandal and money loss. Nope, if it wasn't profitable, if the cost of the public perception of it would cost too much, then maybe you'd see something. But they just figure out a better way to do what they're doing until somebody finally gets it right. And so when she gets turned off, like she's just going to wake up to in my opinion, just more of the same. Which is what brings us to Mark, which has to me, the biggest impact of anything here. because at least he's got his sister who is a mama bear, literally and figuratively. She's a new mom and she loves her brother. And Rickon, the self help guy, is also can also be involved with his pretentiousness, even though it's like where the value of his pretension and his desire to be famous and known and everything, this is actually to Mark's benefit in this situation, even though Miss Selvig is there and in his arms, as he wakes up, there's his boss, which would be a fucking nightmare to me if I because I mean, I already have a nightmare of a situation because my boss's name is the same name as my dad, and they both act the same. So it's like need I say more? Anyway, Mark wakes up in Miss Selvig's arms, and she's already like, Mark, are you all right, Mark? Like what's going on? Like he's already now. It's out. The ticking clock for him is even worse. His situation is even more maddening because he's got all these things bouncing around in his head and people like looking at him, and Harmony Cobell, who's always sniffing around Mark, just won't stop. So we know it's only a matter of time before she figures out who he is because he's nervous. This is a very nervous situation. How do you stay? He's trying to stay normal in a very abnormal situation because so much information's coming at him. His boss is at his sister's house. Like he didn't even know it's his sister at first. Like his first steps into this reality is almost to think that his sister's his wife and that's his baby. Thankfully, as the episode goes on, he re-meets the pretentious weirdos that follow Rickon around. And they tell him, they say enough to like, oh, it's my sister, it's her baby. Okay, I have to go find my sister now. And then just keep constantly, oh, there's the picture of Rickon. I'm at a book party for Rickon, the author, my guru, my mentor. So, but then it's like, he almost gets to talk to her, and then it's like time for the book reading. And then, oh, let's talk about the small eyes lady, the small eyes with the bird pecks on the back of her head that he might see. Oh, that poor. That's just a sad character. Like just to show, like it's boy, oh boy. I looked at her and went, I don't want to be I don't want to be that person, that sad person that has birds that peck the back of her head because they're her friends. Oh my god. Anyway, so while Mark's pinballing all over the place here, bouncing between Harmony and his sister and the pretentious people and Rickon, he finally talks to Rickon. And I love this scene because he gets to talk to this guy who's changed his life. And on the outside, Mark doesn't need his self-help because it is pretty obvious stuff. But to someone who has no idea about like the outside world and anything, all he knows is Lumen, Rickon's words are like Shakespeare. They're like Einstein. Really smart people in touch with what Mark needs to hear. And so for him, it's like this, like Rickon finally gets a boost up in his like bullshit, but it also gives Mark an ally, somebody that like Mark is going to be able to rely on here after he is, the connection is lost. Because at least, Mark finally gets to tell his sister. And I love, again, their relationship so much. It's such a great brother and sister, like that banter. It's not like, because other shows do it all the time, but this one, it just really feels like their chemistry and their back and forth feels very natural, the way brothers and sisters just are with each other, and how you can be weird and inappropriate with each other in only the ways brothers and sisters can be. That sounded weird too. I don't know. Family, right? But it's like I love that we're not sitting here spending time with her going, it can't be, you're putting me on, blah blah blah. No, she just believes her brother. And why, he wants to know, why would he put himself, why would he put me in there? And this is where he finds out about Gemma. He had heard about the loss, and now it's like, Gemma, there was an accident. You were a professor of history, you tried to go back to teaching, but I liked how she put that she was still in your veins, making everything hurt, but that she was wonderful. She made you wonderful. And it's at that point, right, where she's like, oh, by the way, why is Miss Cobell here? You mean, and it's like this like weird like realization that Miss Cobell is Miss Selvig, and Miss Selvig has the baby, which blows the entire party up as they all frantically try to find the baby now that they know that she's there. And the best part about this is that no matter what, when any Mark disappears, his sister knows everything and knows that Cobell Harmony is an enemy. And she's there to do her brother harm, which means she's there to do any Mark wrong. And they're about to find out, at least on that level. I want to see something awesome from the sister in season 2. So even after all that, they find the baby. The pretentious guy takes the credit, which is another saying something about people and followers and all that. But then Mark finally sees the picture of Gemma and realizes that that's his wife. She's Miss Casey. Mark runs, screams she's alive to everyone, just as the connection is cut. We cut to black, and that's the end of the episode. And now we've been sitting in limbo all this time now. I wish he could have said Gemma is alive, but she said she's alive because create more tension, create more questions. What did he mean by that? Who did he mean by that? Who could he have meant? Why she? Who's she? There can only be so many she's logically, but still, how long before we get there? I don't know. But all I know is that it's not going to be that long before we can get to season 2 in 10 days. Season 2 will be starting, and we will be talking about every episode on a weekly basis here on the channel. Uh, man, I can't believe I finally finished talking about this, and I'm so happy that I was able to do it in more short order than usual. I think I'm getting a little bit better at talking in the space that I'm in currently. It only took 2 years. But yeah. So I want to thank everybody who's gone on this journey and those who decide to continue this journey when we talk about season 2 coming up next week, where we get to just keep talking about this amazing show and not have to wait a million years before we have to do it. Perfect timing, I think. Maybe I should do this more often. Skip the first season so that we can rush to the second season. But then you have to wait between season 2 and 3 and blah blah blah. And if you wait, I'm spiraling because now it's the time to end the video and I don't know what to do sometimes. So I'm just gonna say, if you like my social anxiety put to video on YouTube. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe as I get a frog in my throat right at the end. So, yeah, hit the bell for all notifications, all that jazz. And we'll see you all on the next video. Unless you've been severed, and then you won't remember any of this. Bye.
Fuck you, Mr. Milchick!
Ba 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 bum. Ba 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 bum bum. Ba ba bum. Ba ba bum bum. Ba ba bum.